Now 6:46, let's talk a little bit about Metro Police.
Yeah, we are practicing social distancing, so Sheriff Joe Lombardo is joining us this morning via Skype for our Morning Cup of Joe segment. Sheriff, good morning to you. Hope you are doing well. We want to talk to you about how Metro is enforcing the closure of non-essential businesses, and if you know this morning the latest numbers for how many have been shut down.
You know, it changes daily. So unfortunately, I don't have an exact number for you, but I can globalize it pretty easily. Since the beginning of the governor's direction, we're well over 400 businesses that we've had to evaluate. Out of those 400, about 200 actually required visits. So the special investigation section of my police department, along with city and county business license, go out as a team. They're used to doing privilege licenses, but now they're doing actual business license as according to the directive. So about 50% of the total calls we go out and evaluate. Most of them, the other 50% are done over the phone. And then 50% of the 50%, we have actually had to formally give them a notification letter. And then I would say 40 plus, we've had to suspend the licenses because the people haven't cooperated. And then once the license is suspended and then the declaration from the governor is lifted, then they'll have to go before business license to evaluate their continuance of their license. And only 2 have risen to criminal, where we charge them with as a nuisance. Because they're not even complying after they received the letter and or their license has been suspended. So it sounds convoluted and there's a lot of numbers associated with it, but on the majority of it, people are cooperating.
Well, Sheriff, speaking of these emergency orders, this kind of comes more from a state level with Governor Sisolak, but any idea how long these orders might last and how much work you guys are going to have to do to keep an eye on businesses and the people walking around town?
Shoot, I wish I knew the answer to that, John. I mean, I wish I had the crystal ball with that because, as you can imagine, how bad this has affected everybody with their livelihood, the economy. What we do as a police agency, it takes away from our primary goal is fighting crime. But hopefully, you know, according to the federal government, we're going to look like we're going to go into 2 rough weeks here, and then eventually on the downslide at the end of the 2 weeks. So I'm hoping the governor is paying attention. I know he's paying attention to the numbers and the dates, and he's doing the best he can for our state. But the sooner the better, in my opinion, that we can get back because, you know, we got some rough times for up to 18 months after the fact to get people willing to come visit us and reinvigorate the economy. So back to the other half of your question, displacement of people, in particular to the homeless. Yeah, Catholic Charities and Salvation Armies had some issues within their facilities. They've had to shut down for a period of time for decontamination, which caused a huge displacement of the homeless population. So they've done a temporary fix within the parking lot at Cashman Field to house those people that voluntarily want to participate. But the other part of the groups are the ones that have infiltrated the downtown area and the strip area. So we've had to deal with a lot of break-ins, property type damage calls, people trying to find places to sleep at night. This has been an adjustment of what we do normally on a day-to-day basis, dealing with those type of calls.
Lastly here, Sheriff, you know, with all this going on, there was a lot of concern about a possible rise in crime. Are you seeing a rise in crime right now, or are there any trends you're seeing at this point?
No, not necessarily. You know, we've had a 3% increase in aggravated assaults, but included in that aggravated assault data or that number set is domestic violence. In particular, in our evaluation of the data, most of that increase has been domestic violence. People are at home, people are frustrated, they're out of work, they're sequestered in their houses, emotion gets involved, and we would predict that in normal circumstances, not normal circumstances, but in crisis. But it's not troubling so far. In particular, the property crime, we've had a significant significant decrease, and that is also due to people being at home now instead of having their house vacated while they're at work or at school or whatever they do on a daily basis. So that's a positive in the how we look at things. But in overall calls for service, we're down around 15% year to date compared to last year during this period of emergency.
Well, Sheriff, we appreciate those numbers, and we'll keep an eye on things. And thank you again for joining us this morning here on 8 News Now. Now, if you have a question for Sheriff Joe Lombardo, you can submit it at 8newsnow.com. You can find out if your question is answered every Wednesday. We check traffic and weather after this. This is